their population. In Connecticut, that vote is based on our population as a town and the share that would have gone to the county if Connecticut had county governments. So in that sense, we kind of lucked out. The end result is $2.775 million, half of which has been received, and then the other half will be released at a later point after the projects have been chosen. So the purpose of this event is to fulfill a requirement in the American Rescue Plan Act for a public engagement process involving the communities in the decision-making process to how these funds are to be used, right? Not one person, 2 people, 3 people, 5 people. We have 72 signed up. We have at least 15 walk-ins, I think. So this is a really strong representation, diverse interests, people involved in different commissions and committees, many representatives from all of the fire departments and the ambulance service, unaffiliated residents, both political parties, you name it, you guys are here, and that is the best we can hope for. So this is what we're doing tonight. This slideshow is going to take the first 15 minutes. Then we're going to have 15 minutes for individual reflection and scoring with the score sheets that are in the packets on your tables. And that's going to be about 15 minutes. I will explain how that scoring process should work as we go. For those of you who didn't sign up, the tables are going to be short. So just take some of the paper from the notes that are in front of you and do the best you can. I'm going to be collecting all that at the end of the event, and I'll get to that process later. After the 15 minutes of the individual reflection and scoring on what you've heard or what you've read, if you received the packet ahead of time, that's going to be your group discussion, right, with your peers at your tables, in which time you're going to try to develop a consensus, right, a balancing of priorities, because everybody here has conflicting priorities. There are people here with dogs in these fights, and there are people who have heard this stuff for the first time. All of the projects we're about to present are worthy, and all of them are eligible. Your job here is to discuss with your neighbors, right, your fellow residents, how these should best be allocated. All right, and then we're going to have a brief speed dating presentation at the end. Each team will get 2 minutes to present a synopsis of what their consensus was. And that's all we're interested in at the end of tonight is your consensus. Following that, I'm going to have a busy few days. I'm going to take all of the results of this, all of the numerical scoring. There's a survey online, the comments that were received in the various boards of selectmen and finance meetings, and compile that into a series of recommendations to hand off to the board of selectmen for their final decision. About 3 days of work to produce a final report, but that final decision should represent, again, the consensus of the community as best we can. There is going to be compromise involved. Always keep that in mind. There is always compromise involved. And now, here are the projects. And these are very quick snapshots. A copy of this is, the slideshow is also in those folders, so you can sort of take a look at it as you're considering if you want to go back and look at anything. I also have a copy of the full 70 pages up here. You're probably not going to have time to go through it, but if anybody wants to look at it, you're welcome to come up and ask me for it. Project number 1, under the eligibility category of COVID mitigation and prevention, broadly interpreted as public health. These are presented, by the way, not in any order of preference. They are presented in the order that the eligibility category appears in the guidance document by the Treasury. So these are not in any way ranked in this presentation. I think people here are widely aware of the physical problems with the structure at Community Fire. The proposed project, as described, would substantially renovate Community Fire in place, not looking for a new location, using or adapting preliminary concept designs developed for the department. An expanded scope could seek to add a second emergency shelter for the town. And in this iteration, the ambulance service continues to be co-housed with community fire. The estimated project cost at the bottom is information that was updated as of today, and this is based on very rough estimates from the engineering firm Time and Bond. Second eligibility, same eligibility category, a second proposed project, and this is very late breaking. I don't have quite as much information to share, but this did come up in one of the Board of Selectmen meetings. An alternative or a potential additional project would be to relocate the ambulance service to a custom-built steel building facility at the DPW site. And this is the basic information here. You uncouple the two services, could be pursued instead of or in addition to, and work to prep the site could potentially be shared with the project that we'll talk about later, which is the reconstruction or replacement of the salt shed. The ballpark estimates that we have, and that's exactly what they are, ballpark, is roughly for the site work. The first 500,000 is the estimate that DPW is already using for the salt shed. So if that site work would be $500,000, so would this be, but potentially they could be a shared project. Next eligibility category is direct assistance to households, and that can take many forms. It could be as simple as things like those stimulus payments that everybody got, or it could be an income qualified program for home repairs, rental and mortgage assistance, medical bills, fairly standard issue stuff in its way. There was an analogous program that was run a few years ago through the Community Development Block Grants, which did exactly that. It provided for low to middle income households the opportunity to pursue critical repairs, roofing, energy upgrades. Programs like that can have a big lifting effect on neighborhoods, and it is recommended in the Treasury Department document. It is also recommended by a regional steering committee here in Eastern Connecticut. Estimated project costs, you could sort of set that wherever. The reason I have the 632,000 and change there is because that added together with a later project, proposed project for early childhood or healthy childhood environments, comes to 30% of the allocation that was recommended in the regional steering committee for all municipalities. So that is where that number comes from. Next eligibility category is age-impacted industries, tourism, and recreation. This is both a responsive and a proactive category. Everybody knows that tourism was hit pretty badly. Now here in Thompson, our tourism sector is largely outdoor recreation. So ironically enough, the impacts that we saw from COVID were not necessarily negative. They were actually increased use. If you can read here, there's a census counter at the Airline trail near where the tri-state marker is. In 2019, there were 6,901 total users. In 2020, there were 23,000. And part of that is because the state of Connecticut is aggressively promoting outdoor tourism and recreation, and I can tell you that they will continue to do so. I'm actually on the Eastern Regional Tourism District, and that is going to continue into the future. So, again, a proactive way to enhance this asset that we have for anticipated future use, and also to drive future economic development within the town of Thompson. So that is how that fits in there. Estimated costs, the $775,000 and change comes from a combination of two things. We have some estimates from work on the proposed for the site of the Great East Thompson train wreck. The top out at around 550. There's another 25 or so that is coming out of a proposed addition even to that, an opportunity that the Historical Society recently had to acquire some historic turntable stones to further enhance the site. I apologize for going fast, guys, but I'm trying to keep this on time. Next eligibility category, building stronger communities through investments in housing and neighborhoods. In this case, neighborhoods is the emphasis. Just down the road from us is the 65 Main building, currently vacant, and it's been vacant for, I believe, 8 or 9 years. There is a proposal on the table to revitalize the building and the site. What has been proposed is a small business incubator as a final use, and enhancement of the grounds with a series of public gardens, including an improvement to the 3.2 acres of Riverside Park that's on that side of the river, which is currently overgrown. So in its function as a future small business incubator, that would be, investments in neighborhoods, having an asset within the community for people perhaps who come out of the high school system who aren't college track but are otherwise entrepreneurial, right? So think of it in those terms. And that's the best way to understand that project. Oh, sorry, I forgot the estimated costs. We recommend a project maximum of $275,000, $720.50. It's not as random as it sounds. That leaves $2 million even in the actual estimate here ranges between $244 for the full building renovation plus another 15 or so for a permaculture landscaping consultant for that work in Riverside Park. Next eligibility category, promoting healthy childhood environments. The category more or less speaks for itself. The proposed actions under that category are here, and I know the print's a little small even up here. So coming out of the recreation department, a middle school after-school club, because that is a largely forgotten group of students. Commercial recreation department scholarships to all programs for LMI youth. LMI is an acronym for low to middle income. Expand or initiate K through 4th grade before and after school care, and commit up to funding through 2024, which is when the funding has to be expended by, to support recreation and camp programming for all ages. A recent addition to that was proposed to undertake the design and engineering for the renovation of the high school track oval. And those estimates, the top ones, we have some control over what those would cost. The estimates for the design that we have is a 72.2. So what we're proposing here is $272,200 combined for all of these subsets to that project. Next category of eligibility, water and sewer infrastructure. This is broadly eligible. All kinds of water and sewer infrastructure work are highly favored in the Treasury document. So the first under that is the replacement of the salt shed. Again, a project that we've all known about for a while. The salt shed has the potential to contaminate some wells that are fed off South Brook. And while it doesn't affect a large number of households within the town, the effect on those particular households is potentially catastrophic. Estimates here, again, $1 million, $500,000 for the site work, and that's the figure I have from DPW, plus another estimate of roughly $500,000 for a purpose-built shed, probably similar to the design of what you see here. Last project we're asking you to consider is also under water and sewer infrastructure are upgrades to the wastewater treatment plant. Hasn't been upgraded in many, many years, since the 70s apparently. I am quite certain that that means there are efficiency upgrades that could occur, which would ultimately not only bring down costs for those who are hooked up to it, but potentially make it more desirable for that service to be expanded. We have two different estimates here, so I included them both. The high end was based on a very casual conversation, or not casual, an opening conversation that Amy had with Tiny Bond, And they sort of tossed out that 925,000 because that's what they thought we were getting. So the number below was provided to us by the acting director of the WPCA. Somewhere in between there is probably where your costs are actually going to lie. All right, those are the summaries. Now, I'm about a minute over time, so I'm going to go as quickly as we can. We have a hard stop at 8 o'clock. We have to be done doing this so that we can clean up. There's no evening custodian at the library, and they were very gracious to let us be here tonight, so we need to be mindful of that time. So for the next 15 minutes, and I'm going to stop you at 6:47, because I've gone over time. Take your time with those score sheets. Everybody get one. And do it. You're going to have to do it quickly, but just based on your impressions and what you've heard here or what you've read coming into this meeting. Following that, group discussion and team scoring. As a part of that group discussion, every single person should get a minute or two to describe what their initial priorities are before you bring the group discussion there. Because we always know that there are loud voices and soft voices, and the soft voices must be heard, right? If only in that time. Please each assign a moderator to keep track of time, a note taker to write down questions that need to be answered, and a spokesperson for the end. This highlighted thing, debate is good, bullying is bad. Everybody here has priorities. Everybody's priorities are legitimate. So listen to them. When you are debating, what I want you to consider is making the case for what you want, not trying to tear down anybody else's arguments, right? Make your strongest case and then discuss. Doesn't mean you can't question each other. It means make your case. Don't worry about what somebody else wants to do that you don't want to do. Okay, and then after that, speed dating. We have 4 moderators this evening, up from 1, which is great. Me, Ken, Amy, Suzanne. If you have a question, raise your hand. One of us will come over. Write the question down in case it takes a while. You don't want to forget it. And I'll call time every once in a while. Maybe they'll fix the mic by then. Oh, and one more thing, I forgot. So this is also being recorded and it's going to be posted. For those of you viewing the recording, you do have an opportunity to give your input. There is a survey on the town webpage, and you can link to it right from the homepage. Okay, go.
What the project is.
At this time, group discussion should commence. And again, of tonight, each person at your table should go around and get a chance to quickly, 2 minutes or less, express their priorities and then go on and discuss. So wherever you've assigned as your moderator, try to keep to that, minute and a half, 2 minutes. And have at it, guys. I'll break in again later.
Yeah, I can yell too, but what's the point? Just before Beth starts, all of the papers at your table, the score sheets, the team rankings, put them back in that folder, please, so that I can collect them. Thank you. All right, here's Beth.
Hi, I'm Beth Goldsmith, Team 1. We had a tie for first.
Let's talk.
We had a tie for first and second place. We had a vote down, so to speak. Number 1 in our list is relocation of the ambulance service to the DPW garage, thinking that the salt shed would benefit with that being located there at the same time. Number 2 was the healthy childhood environment after school programs, scholarships, and the track oval, which has been broken down for years and years and years and does need help because they can't use it, they can't race there. But healthy childhood support of the kids was important to the people at our table. Number 3 on our list was another tie, improvements to the Airline trail and the train wreck park. That received 4 votes, and it was probably due to the recreation aspect and the benefit that it would bring to the town. And renovation of community fire station, I think we all recognize that that's an important building, and for it to be empty like this is just not for the benefit of the town.
You have 2 more minutes. You can go all the way down to this.
Okay, number 5 was the replacement of the salt shed, and that would tie in with the relocation of the ambulance service. Number 6 was the upgrade to the wastewater treatment plant, and receiving 0 votes at our table was direct assistance to households, and 0 votes also for the Turtle Up building right down here, down the road. So that's our list.
Thank you, Beth. You're a lovely spokesperson. Team number 2.
Good evening. So this was a very difficult exercise for our table. I don't know if anybody else had any problems. Really, we felt that there probably needs to be more studies done here to kind of have a better understanding of some of the costs. We certainly spent most of our time talking about community fire and needing to renovate that building, and that being really the cost is the issue there, which is why, as Sean would say, he'd like to see it done for half the price, which would be wonderful for all these projects. But, that was what we spent most of our time talking about, is how to renovate that firehouse, whether we should separate and the costs associated with all of them. That being said, I think we also focused on a lot of the other bigger projects, like the salt shed and the water treatment plant. Again, we didn't get to a discussion on how really to massage everything together into a coherent $2.7 million plan, but those were the table's concerns. I think for the cost, and I think my table agreed, we don't like the idea of picking up having to take the cost for 65 Main, but at the cost of what it's going to take to renovate it and what it could do for the community. I think we rated that fairly highly as well. Our issue with the healthy for 3 years, so that's great that for 3 years we can provide that to kids as an after-school program. And then how do we fund it? And then you got some pretty disappointed kids. So, if that was something we could continue funding for, it would be great, but we're probably not going to be able to do that. Again, improvements to the Airline trail, I think, Charlie certainly was a big proponent of that and would like to see more expansion there. And I share his thoughts, but we didn't rate that as highly. We did not rate direct assistance to households very highly. I would say I didn't get a chance to share this with my group. I personally, and I think probably all of you, because we're town people and we want to see money go to the town and the projects that our town needs, I personally am a proponent of the direct assistance to households, because I think we have a problem where, we struggle to pass a budget every year. People don't like the budget, people don't like, town government in a sense, and people don't want to pay taxes because they don't think that the local government gives back or cares about the people. So they put in a salt shed that helps a few people. Time. I think we have to get the local government to believe in us again, to say, hey, we are here for you, we are giving you benefits, and that's the way we do it. But that's just me.
Matt's a lawyer.
It will help us for years to come.
Team number 3, and I'm going to give you 15 extra seconds. Who's your spokesperson?
Right there. Oh.
Waiting,
on deck.
waiting the way.
I have to follow along. Really? All right. Yeah, we had a lot of discussion, and actually, I was opposed to a lot of what the table came up with, but I'm here to speak for the table. So, at the top of our list, we did have the ambulance service. As was pointed out, we're required to have an ambulance service, and we have one ambulance service that takes care of the whole town. They need to have the proper facilities to do their job. In second place was a community fire, but that, like Matt said, was a lot of discussion. It isn't just a set, we need to spend the money on this. What's the future of the fire departments in this town is what it comes down to. We have 5 fire departments. Is this the right way to spend the money? How much of that money should we spend? Do we just make it work for now? Do we go for the full amount? It just needs to be a lot more discussion than just saying the money's going to community fire. There needs to be an agreed upon solution, because that's a big chunk of money. Third place was a salt shed, and as was pointed out by Beth, that kind of goes with the relocation of the ambulance service, so that kind of works together. Fourth was direct assistance to households. I, and along with another person, kind of felt like we've already gotten a lot of assistance from the federal government. Do we need to be giving more direct assistance? Fifth, we had the healthy childhood environment. And again, like Beth said, the big thing of that wasn't about the project. Same thing Matt said, these projects go away in 3 years, and what happens? We need a more permanent solution, but that was voted pretty high on the list because we feel that we need a new track at the high school. And I would come around to, should we be spending this money on something like that, or should that be a capital expenditure out of the town budget instead, as with some of these other things, instead of using this one-time stimulus where we need it for projects that are never going to get funded by the town. And you're seeing my prejudice because as we move down the list, we had, let's see, the upgrades to water treatment plant, also 6th, like Beth's group. And the bottom 2 were my favorites, the Airline Trail and 65 Main, because those 2 projects don't get money from the town. Trails Committee doesn't get money from the town. And what really wasn't emphasized, but if you looked at your rankings, how many people actually know that both of those projects are pretty much ready to go? The research has been done. The Trainwreck Park, we've been working with the National Park Service for 2 years. That project isn't going to cost $2 million. It's a good use of our money that the town will never budget to us. It's ready to go tomorrow if we had to. And a lot of these other projects still need a lot of discussion and a lot of work to get there. So that's my personal point of view. I got the microphone, I got to say it. So I really think we should look, and overall, whoever's going to make the decision, you have a set amount of money. Do you want to spend it all on 2 projects, or do you want to get 5 or 6 projects going?
Brian, let me stop when I showed him my cell phone. Who's on team number 4 speaking up? Here we go.
So our team felt that, for the most part, public health was our priority. And number 1, we felt that the renovation of the community fire station would be priority. And right behind that, we felt that the ambulance service moving to the DPW garage would also be a priority. From there, in third, we felt the salt shed replacement, because that also goes along with the ambulance. And from there, upgrades to the wastewater treatment plan came in 4. That was also something we talked about a lot. We felt that was a priority and something that needed to be done sooner than later. 65 Main Street came in 6th. We felt the priority of economical growth with small business, and also for the appearance of it, it's a crumbling building. We want to see something happen to it. In 7, our direct assistance to households, that was not as favorable. Some people felt it was favorable, others did not. Some felt it would only benefit a small population, and once the money is gone, we don't know how we'll replenish it. Plus, there's also other government funding available. And in 8th was the improvements to the Airline Trail and the train wreck.
Somebody finished up with time to spare. Lawyers in the room. Team 5. Matt knows I kid because I care.
I'll take another 10. You're inspiring.
Are those billable hours?
Good evening. I'm representing Table 5, Team 5. It's our consensus that infrastructure and safety of the town is a top priority. This not necessarily mine, but this is our table. So the renovation of the community fire station came in number 1, but I'm also sitting with the chief, so how the heck can we do that? The relocation of the ambulance came in a strong number 2. It was almost tied. And that ties in very well with the replacement of the salt shed, because we think we could save some money doing it that way. The Airline Trail came in at our number 4, knowing that like the Airline and 65 Main, which came in right after that, there's grant money out there. If we put money into it, we can possibly get some money back and get more bang for our buck. Then the wastewater treatment plant was next, followed by the healthy childhood, and because they're all Republicans over there, the direct household assistant was absolute 0. So that's it. That's it for us.
Also, a man who values brevity. Team number 6, send your man up.
Hello, everyone. My name is Abraham Gustafson, and I do live in the town. There was some confusion about that at my table. I just don't know the streets. So our table's consensus was that the fire department and the ambulance service definitely needed some support. We ranked the new ambulance site, as I understood it, first on our list. The Airline Trail came in 2nd on our list. That was my personal vote as well. I am a member of the Thompson Historical Society. Was at the film the other day, and I love walking the streets, or maybe not the streets, of course, of Thompson, but the hills and valleys of Thompson. And during the pandemic, I was always hiking all the time. So I think that site could be developed, and it could be something beautiful for our town. 3rd was the salt shed. 4th was the water and sewer facilities. 5 was the community fire facilities. 6 was the childhood, healthy childhood environments, and the track. There was some consensus there from the alumni of Turtelot we had at our table, who believed that the track definitely needed some fixing. So hopefully we can get some more athletes out there into the world and fix that track. 7 was direct assistance, and at the bottom of the list was the 65 Main Street project. So that was our table's consensus. Thank you. No problem.
What are we on, number 7? I think so.
Lucky number 7.
Lucky number 7.
So we had a consensus pretty much through the whole table for everything that we looked at. Renovation of the community fire station was ranked number 1, but that was with the caveat of EMS broken out. We had a tie for number 2, so the relocation of the ambulance to the DPW garage and the replacement of the salt shed. We incorporated the salt shed with the cost savings from the fire renovation. So we saw the cost savings would roll over to those two. The rec, between rec, T, the rec, between rec, Teague, and the track, and the children being affected from COVID, we felt, highly ranked behind the fire and salt shed. Number 5 was upgrades to the wastewater treatment plant. The proposed town development and the efficiencies needed and the infrastructure improvements, we felt that, the money being spent there tied to all of the improvements that the town is seeing in the future, we put that at number 5. Number 6 was direct assistance to the households. And we noted that, Teague would be able to help manage that. They do a lot of that assistance now. So the impact to the town would be a little bit lower. 7 and 8, 7 was 65 Main, least impact to the overall community. And the Airline Trail was number 8. Thank you.
Team number 8.
So we had some really good debate, really good discussion. I learned some things, and I think there were some other people at our table that learned some things as well. Our number 1 on the list was the relocation of the ambulance to the DPW garage. And the way we scored this, we used what was given to us, plus we kind of took a little bit of liberty on our own, and we ranked our 1 through 3, and then we took the time and went back and added them up. And it was pretty interesting that the consensus kind of came out different, but still had the same top 1. So like I said, the top 1 was the relocation of the ambulance. The second one was the renovation of the community fire station. From a safety perspective, to continue the service out of there for the time being. Again, I think some other team members or some other groups here mentioned, so we can figure out what we're doing with the fire departments in the town of Thompson. Number 3 was the replacement of the salt shed. Again, cost savings with the EMS facility, I think was the big driver there. Number 4 was the healthy childhood environment, and a lot of that went to like everybody else said, the track and the rec department. Number 5 was improvements to the Airline Trail, and I think that was a very important number 5. We here in Thompson enjoy our fresh air, and I think the Airline Trail, I was on it during the pandemic, so I think that it definitely helps keep us mentally straight during times like that. Number 6 was upgrades to the wastewater treatment plant. Again, got to bring it into the modern age, and I think that's important. Number 7 was 65 Main Street, and number 8 was the direct assistance to households. And to be clear, that number 8 wasn't last because we don't want to give money to people, but I think that there is a lot of funding that's already out there for assistance, and Teague does a really great job navigating and managing through all of that. So I think if we were to kind of even give some money out of the number 8 choice here, I think would be appropriate. But again, Teague does a lot of that management as it is. So that's our top 8.
Number 9.
Hello, my name is Tom Angelo, 640 Fabian Road, Cornbog, Fabian, wherever you want to call that down there. In full transparency, and so there's no FOI violations, I am a Board of Education member and also the president of the Turtle Rock Trust. I was nominated by my team. They wanted me to sing these results, as I'm also the guitarist and singer from the band Rockin' On. And you can still hear my voice is shot from singing Highway to Hell 3 days in a row this past weekend, so I apologize. Our number 1 was the renovation of the community fire department, and that was not strong-armed by having 3 members here at our table. We put up a heck of a fight, but we were educated, and it was pretty interesting to hear the the amount of responses, response time, et cetera, and how many households are serviced. Our number 2 was the relocation of the ambulance service to the DPW garage. Again, in this situation, seconds and minutes are crucial to a life and death situation, so we felt that was number 2. And our number 3 was the replacement of the salt shed. I think we need a little bit more information, but we felt that it was high on our list and one of those crucial needs. The remainder obviously are going to be on a weighted average scale, which Tara is going to put together, but I'll just tell you quickly. Number 4 was the Airline trail. Number 5 was the upgrades to the wastewater treatment, even though that's very important. If something does go wrong, it's going to end up in Putnam. It won't be our problem. Number 6 is a healthy childhood environment. And number 7 was 65 Main. Number 8 was direct assistance to the households.
All right, we got one more. Who's standing up?
Hi, I'm George O'Neill. I'm representing Group 10. I'm also on the Inland Wetlands Commission for disclosure. Our group had similar results as most of you other groups have. The top 4 seem to be aligned. Let me start with ours. Number 1, renovation of community fire. There's a lot of discussion. We have a number of firefighters in our group, but the recognition that there are a lot of economic benefits of having a well provisioned fire department, as well as having well-trained staff is critical. And from a larger standpoint, higher rated or lower rated fire departments can reduce costs in other parts of the town. Our second choice was the relocation of the ambulance service to the DPW garage. Again, similar rationale. We want response time. We want trained people. If you become ill or you need to be rushed to emergency, that comes into it. Plus, these two, both 1 and 2, were pretty well defined, and the proposals have had rationale behind them, and they've been well vetted. So there's a lot to work with. Going on to number 3, healthy child environments after school. Human capital investment is overlooked so often. And although it may not strike everyone, a lot of the folks I think at our table, very few had children, but we still think it's very important that we make the investment, the town make the investment in the people, in the children, so that they're guided and have the proper opportunities to learn and develop. So scholarships and other things are important. Those are the top 3. Moving on to number 4, replacement of the salt shed. Some of these could be swapped back and forth. They're really close calls, and we had a lot of discussion. However, the environmental risk to the town is not only present, but it could be a long-term one. We talked about a number of different mitigants that may be employed, but certainly addressing that sooner than later is an essential item. So we went forward on number 4. Moving on to 5, upgrades to wastewater treatment plant. A lot of these lower ranked, below 4, were sort of, it's hard to put in which category you put them into. Certainly needs the investment. It's been deferred a long time. At the same time, the proposal wasn't well defined. It didn't have clear objectives, measurable outcomes. So we're concerned with that. And a few other comments were made. Number 6 is the direct assistance to household. Now, for similar rationale that others offered, there are other programs, and also it can be problematic in actually allocating this and who's going to do it, how do you do it. So all these factors weigh in on the assistance issue. So and eligibility and a variety of other things. So that rated quite low. Down to 7, we have improvements to the Airline trail and train park. I think everyone likes that. There's a lot of discussion about it. However, when you start ranking, life safety against a rural environment, and there are other programs out there to provide assistance and improvements to such trail operations, we rank number 7. And finally, number 8, the 65 Main Street building renovation and small business center. Again, this had not a lot of clarity around it. The cost benefit for the funds versus the return long-term was just undeterminable. So that's why it ended up as number 8. So those are the highlights of our group, and I think ours echo many of the similar characteristics that other groups did, certainly in the top 4. So thank you very much. Here you go, Tara.
Right on time, everybody. So that is it for this evening's event. I want to thank you all again for coming. This was really even better turnout than we anticipated. We are well represented by all of our fire and emergency services this evening. Again, please put all of the all of the papers, all of the score sheets, all of the team score sheets. If you took any notes in the notebooks, stick them all in the folder that was on your table. And we've got a few minutes to clean up. Happy to have some help putting up chairs, but there are specific instructions for the second half of the room, so be careful. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.